Hello there everybody and welcome back to another video. So today we're taking a quick look at Planet Zoo. Earlier this week I got my hands on the Planet Zoo beta and I've been playing the game non-stop since then. So I wanted to share some gameplay, maybe some tips for those of you who are struggling to make a successful zoo, and I also wanted to put my opinions and thoughts out there for those of you who are interested. So for those of you who are interested, the beta is available if you pre-order the deluxe edition up until October 8th, and the game officially launches on November 5th this year, so it's pretty exciting. So quick little introduction for those of you who might not be familiar with this game. So Planet Zoo is an upcoming zoo simulation and management game developed by Frontier Games. These are the guys responsible for Planet Coaster, and Planet Zoo is kind of like the spiritual successor to games like Zoo Tycoon. So I've been having so much fun with the game so far, so I'm very excited to show you guys the park that I've been working really hard on this past week. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Right, so this is my current park so far. This is the very first park I've worked on ever since the beta came out, and at this point I'm probably about a couple dozen hours into the gameplay, so this is pretty late into my experience. Basically I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys around, and as we're visiting the different enclosures, I'm gonna go ahead and share some tidbits on how I made this park relatively successful. Also, towards the end of this video, I will also be giving you guys a brief recap and overview of my experiences with the beta and with the game so far. So as you guys can see, this park is called the Pride Lands. We're currently in franchise mode, which is an online sandbox mode and is one of 3 game modes which is available in Planet Zoo, the other 2 being career mode and sandbox mode. Career is more of a linear story mode experience, and sandbox mode is basically a sandbox where you can create anything else. I gotta say, I love this baobab tree. It is such an iconic shape. I really love it. So let's go ahead and take a right. This pathway takes us basically to kind of like the little commercial area of this park. Every time you go to a zoo, there's usually like a row of shops you know, close to the main entrance, so that's kind of like what I was trying to recreate here. So there's basically like some souvenir shops and some food shops and all of that good stuff. Moving on, we get to our first enclosure that we're going to be checking out in this video, which is going to be the mandrill enclosure. Now I love this. As you guys can see, this enclosure has this custom canopy which I made from scratch. I'm really proud of it. I love it. It's one of my favorite things I've built myself in this game. But yeah, this is the mandrill enclosure, and I love how you can completely make these custom climbing frames to give your monkeys like enrichment, their climbing enrichment. It's so amazing, and we are seeing one of the mandrills coming up to us right now. Actually, let's check out the inside of this enclosure because I think it also looks really good as well. I love these vines actually that are hanging from this little shady canopy, but let's go ahead and backtrack a little bit into this enclosure right here, which is actually the Indian peafowl enclosure. Now this is the first and only walk-in enclosure in this whole park. Basically, you can make enclosures for certain animals that your guests can walk into. So peafowls are one of those animals. I believe the other ones are warthogs and also tortoises as well. But this is the only one. I actually didn't plan for this to be a walk-in enclosure, but luckily I was able to work in a pathway and some visitors entrances as well. Now this is kind of like the main avenue of this park, and to the left here is the warthog enclosure, and as you guys can see, there's some really cute baby warthogs over here. This is the very first enclosure I built, and the first animal that I actually had was a zebra. That's where I basically spent all of my money, or conservation points. And yeah, basically I just made a starting area over here that's not really the prettiest, but it's efficient, it's functional. All of the service areas are over here. They're all very neatly placed and organized. So I think that's one of the reasons why this park ended up being quite successful, is because I just made everything quite functional and, you know, efficient. This peafowl enclosure was the second one that I built. So my first animals was the zebra, warthog, and peafowl. Also, keep in mind that you can keep multiple animals together, so you don't actually have to build different enclosures for every single species of animals. Like, for example, zebras and warthogs can actually be kept together in the same enclosure. So moving on, we get to this little plaza area, and to the right here we have our little reptile house. Once again, this is another one of those initial structures that I built starting off, and I think it's a pretty basic box. I definitely want to make something that looks a little bit more interesting, but you know, it does the job fine, I guess. So here we have some snakes, and over here in the distance, that's where I have my tortoise enclosure. But over here to the left, we have a little walkway over here that takes us to the African elephant enclosure. Now, yes, this is a pretty spectacular, huge space for the elephants. As you guys can see, there's a little elephant baby over there. It's super cute. African elephants are very expensive. You're probably not gonna get your hands on them until relatively late in game, but they are such majestic animals. They're so beautiful, and I love them. It's definitely one of my favorite animals that I have in this game, and I think the guests also feel the same way, because as you guys can see, they're literally flocking to see the elephants over here. Now, this is also a shared enclosure. I also put some warthogs in here as well. Warthogs reproduce quite fast, so it's good to distribute them in different enclosures, just to, you know, mix things up a little bit. Also, animals gain from actually having other species in the same enclosure. They have kind of like a related boost from that. But moving on to this little pathway over here, we have some shops and a crowd of people buying some drinks and some food. But here we have our West African lion enclosure, and as you guys can see, we have our lion over there. For those of you who don't know, lion is one of my favorite animals. It's my namesake, so it has to be one of my favorite animals. Also, over there in the distance, I tried to recreate like the Pride Rock from the Lion King, but oh my gosh, look at the lion. It is using the scratching pose. This is actually the first time I'm seeing a lion use that, so thank you so much for putting on a show for us. But let's move on into the ostrich enclosure over here. Now, this is kind of like the ostrich enclosure slash like breeding facility, because ostriches for me breed so frequently. As you guys can see, I have a bunch of them. They're also quite hard to maintain because they always fight. As you guys can see, they're like literally fighting right now, especially the males, so it's really hard. I always have to keep my eye on them. But yeah, moving on, we get to another one of my favorite enclosures, which is the hippo enclosure. So, oh my gosh, we have a hippo right here coming to greet us. And I have 3 hippos in here. I have 1 baby hippo and 2 adult ones. Let's see if we can find the baby one. But yeah, hippos require a lot of space, so please keep that in mind when you're building your hippo enclosure. This enclosure actually is a very bizarre shape because I had to enlarge it a couple of times because the hippos, they just weren't happy with the space that I initially had, so I had to enlarge it quite a bit. like this area right here was a later addition because the hippos wanted more space, but I'm looking for the baby. Like, where is it? Oh, there it is. It is so cute, you guys. Look at that. Adorable. I'm so excited to see the pygmy hippos as well. Right, so let's go straight into this path right here. And basically, once again, we have a little plaza. And this is a really nice plaza with some shops over here, and this is basically fronting the safari. Now the safari is a very special zone in this whole park because it's basically an area where we have like a huge space. This is where I keep a lot of my African ungulates, which thankfully has the ability to live together, but this is also where I have my 4x4 jeepney tours. As you guys can see, some of the guests are already taking it right now. This is actually a custom build, which I'm thinking of probably making a separate video for that, for those of you who want to see a closer look at that. Keep an eye out for it on the channel. It should be out really soon, but this is kind of like the savannah area. So this is where you'll see giraffes and zebras and antelopes. As per usual, we have these beautiful baobab trees taking pride of place in this whole area. And if you guys are wondering what this whole bridge is for, basically when I did this like pathway for the jeeps, I realized that some of the animals, they couldn't cross it for some reason. I think it's a glitch because some of the animals are fine, but some of the animals can't go across it, so I had to build this really awkward looking bridge made out of roofs. But it works, you know. It's a little bit weird to look at, but as you guys can see, everything is pretty functional, you know, everything works. And basically this is kind of like the end of the park. This is like literally what I have so far. We have this walkway that overlooks this whole like complex, this whole savanna biome, I would like to call it. And of course there are some hordes of people and some who are also protesting as well. So yeah, I think that's actually pretty much it for this park overview. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out for a bit so that you guys can have a closer look of everything that I built so far. But now that I've finished showing you guys around the park, I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about my experiences with Planet Zoo so far and do a little bit of a recap of the beta. So at the moment, the beta is very glitchy. Crashes happen quite frequently for me. Some features don't work, such as the online mode, especially when the beta first came out, but it's very reassuring to see that Frontier is taking a very hands-on and open-minded approach to fixing a lot of these issues. I think it was definitely a good idea for them to put out a beta for the public to access, just to test out the way the server responds and how people react to the gameplay in general. So overall, despite all of the issues, I have had countless of hours of fun, and obviously I think that says a lot about this game and how good it actually is. Like, despite like all of the minor issues and some major issues, I still managed to have so much fun. I was able to be creative, was able to be captured by the gameplay, and it's been so amazing. Like, literally the gameplay is so detailed. It can get very overwhelming at times. You know, it's not just a management game. You really have to keep in mind your animals' happiness. Not only that, you also have to keep in mind your staff and your guests' happiness as well. Plus, there's a design aspect that is different for each animal, and you also have to make everything look aesthetically nice, not to mention this whole gameplay feature of breeding your animals to make sure they have desirable genetics. It's very, very overwhelming, but it's been such an amazing experience so far. So I'm very, very excited to get my hands on the final product. I've already pre-ordered it. I have the deluxe edition. The music is beautiful. I'm very, very excited to showcase more of this on the channel for those of you who want to see more of it. So if you do, please let me know in the comments below, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video right here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you guys want to see more Planet Zoo content, please feel free to subscribe because that really supports the channel, and also if you want to, you can share this video as well because that also really helps out a lot. Thank you so much for watching. You all have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.